Her name remained unknown to the Admiral. The roster bore no trace of her presence, no rank designation, no official orders, no legitimate justification for her attendance in the briefing room. Yet when the SEAL team entered and observed her, quietly positioned in the corner, their conversation ceased immediately. Each member acknowledged her with respectful nods because they understood precisely her identity and her capabilities. When missions deteriorated, often the room's most formidable individual is one whose existence remains unknown to military leadership. If you're enjoying this tale of hidden heroes proving their capabilities, please hit that subscribe button on Hidden Sparks so you won't miss our next incredible story. From which global city are you viewing this content today? The amphibious assault ship's command deck featured a steel gray conference table that reflected the harsh fluorescent lighting above. Officers in pressed uniforms surrounded it, shuffling through folders, examining their tablets, and discussing operational specifics in hushed tones. The recycled atmosphere carried heavy scents of coffee and metal. Admiral Pierce occupied the head position, lean, sharp-featured, with an established reputation for operating his task force with mechanical precision. His scanning eyes possessed the cold efficiency characteristic of someone accustomed to recognizing every face, every name, every role, which explained why his attention fixed upon the solitary figure. Positioned against the far wall, her stillness persisted under his scrutiny. Unlike junior officers, she didn't straighten her posture. She simply maintained her wall-leaning position, arms crossed, her gaze focused on the large map display mounted on the forward screen. Pierce's expression tightened with confusion. "Your identity?" he inquired, before her response could emerge. "Commander Briggs, the SEAL team's operations officer," interjected. "She accompanies me, sir." "My question wasn't directed toward that information," the Admiral stated with flat intonation. "Provide name and rank." Her voice carried low.com, almost unremarkable qualities. "Sir, I possess no rank." Pierce's eyebrows drew together. "Then your presence in this room lacks authorization." From across the table, one SEAL team member, a broad-shouldered chief named Maddox, leaned forward. "With respect, Admiral, her belonging here exceeds any of ours." Complete stillness filled the room. Pierce's gaze alternated between them. "Here, to provide explanation." Briggs shifted with visible discomfort. "You'll receive briefings, sir, but currently, we require her participation in this planning." The Admiral's disapproval was evident, yet something in the SEAL's manner of regarding her, not curiosity, but deference, caused him to temporarily suspend his objections. Don't forget to like this video if you're captivated by these untold military stories. Hidden Sparks brings you the most compelling tales of unsung heroes. The target zone materialized on the large screen. A hostile coastal village featured narrow streets leading toward a heavily fortified compound. Inside resided an HVT high-value target connected to multiple attacks against Allied forces. High walls, spotlights, and overlapping fields of fire surrounded the compound. The SEAL team's mission involved nighttime infiltration, compound breach, and live target extraction. The plan demonstrated meticulousness, infiltration route, timing specifications, contingency preparations. The Admiral presented the framework, with practiced precision, but periodically. He observed the wall-positioned woman shaking her head slightly, as though detecting flaws invisible to others. Her voice finally emerged. "That Eastern approach constitutes a death trap." Pierce's eyes contracted. "Your knowledge source?" "Because that compound has hosted my presence," she stated evenly, "twice." Every head in the room turned toward her. The Admiral's instinct prompted challenge, but the SEAL team's reaction stopped him completely. Maddox straightened in his seat, his voice maintaining respect while conveying certainty. "She executed our extraction from Korevek, 6 kilometers behind enemy lines. Single rifle, zero backup." The Admiral's memory activated. Korevek represented classified operations, details buried so deeply he'd only accessed fragments. The man providing this information was among the survivors. "Your file doesn't exist in our system," he said slowly. "It exists in no system," she replied, "and that status will remain unchanged." When planning resumed, she stepped forward, indicating a narrow channel on the digital map. "Your insertion occurs here," she said, finger tracing the route. "Currents will silently carry your boats if we synchronize timing with moonspet. Thermal sensors on the south wall possess a blind spot here. Breach through the service door. Internal chains secure it, but the lock uses cheap steel. You'll have 90 seconds before manual alarm activation." The SEALs listened with intense focus, pens scratching notes. The Admiral maintained skepticism, but even he could observe her intimate knowledge of the compound. One fact was becoming evident. This woman, regardless of identity, had accessed places beyond even his clearance level. What remained unknown to all present was that when the mission inevitably went sideways, she wouldn't merely guide them, she would personally lead their extraction. Remember to share this incredible story with fellow military enthusiasts. Hidden Sparks depends on your support to continue bringing these amazing tales to light. The sky displayed moonless darkness. The sea appeared as a black sheet interrupted only by faint foam at the bows of 2 RIGBs knifing toward the coastline. The SEAL team maintained silence, faces blackened, eyes locked ahead. Only engine humming and low water hissing against hulls provided sound. At the lead boat's stern, the woman sat beside Maddox, her rifle case positioned between her knees. She had spoken little since departing the ship, merely staring at the horizon as though the target compound was already visible through darkness. Admiral Pierce monitored from the ship's command center. Through encrypted headset, he could hear team leader status checks. Her presence continued to make him uncomfortable, but Commander Briggs had insisted on her mission-critical importance. The boats cut engines at quarter-mile distance from shore. The team slipped into water, fins flashing silently as they made for the insertion point she had marked during briefing, a narrow channel between two rock outcrops. The current pulled them forward exactly as she had predicted, neither too fast nor too slow. In under 5 minutes, they reached the seawall's shadow. Maddox glanced toward her. Blind spot confirmation yours. She extracted a small monocular from her vest, scanned the wall, and provided a single nod. We're clear. Proceed. 2 SEALs climbed first, securing ropes. She followed without struggle or hesitation. Her movements maintained quietness and precision, as though her body remembered every foothold without searching. Upon reaching the service door, she knelt and examined the lock. Same cheap chain, she murmured. Compact bolt cutters appeared from her pack, and within seconds, the chain was eliminated. They slipped through, moving from shadow to shadow. The location matched her descriptions perfectly. Tight corridors, overlapping security lights, faint diesel temps from generators. Each time the team slowed, uncertain about the next turn, she gestured them forward, guiding them around patrol routes before guards even appeared. Over communications, Pierce's voice crackled. Target building should be ahead. 2 guards posted. On main entrance. Not tonight, she whispered. She led them to a narrow side passage, an unlit maintenance path. From her pouch, she retrieved a small infrared laser and indicated a security camera positioned high on the wall, invisible to naked eyes. Don't cross the cone. Motion triggered manual alarm. They skirted the edge, slipping through an unmarked door into the compound's lower level. The first gunfire was quiet, a muffled thump from Maddox's suppressed rifle as he dropped a guard rounding the corner. But the second wasn't. An unseen sentry spotted movement and shouted, "Opening fire. Contact front." Briggs barked. Bullets cracked through the narrow hall. The team dropped low, returning fire, but the angle was unfavorable. Before anyone could adjust, she was moving. Sliding low against the wall, she ducked behind stacked crates, drew a compact suppressed pistol, and fired 2 precise shots. Silence fell when she stepped back into view. The SEALs were observing her differently now, not just as a guide, but as someone capable of handling herself when situations turned bad. As they regrouped, Maddox gave her a look. That shot grouping. She shrugged. Old habits. Pierce's voice came over communications again. Status, inside and moving, Briggs replied. They pressed forward toward the target building, but in every SEAL's mind, one question was growing. If the Admiral didn't even know her name, how did she know this compound like she'd built it? Please subscribe to Hidden Sparks and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what happens next in this incredible operation. The target building loomed ahead, a squat reinforced structure with barred windows and a single steel door. 2 SEALs moved to breach while the rest established a perimeter in the courtyard. The woman crouched behind a low wall, scanning rooftops. Something wasn't right. The silence was too deep. Even the usual generator hum was missing. Maddox, she said quietly. Where's your cover fire? He frowned. Overwatch should be in position by now. Before he could finish, the night exploded. Gunfire erupted from 3 rooftops, simultaneously, tracers slicing through darkness. Bullets chewed into the courtyard wall, sending concrete shards spraying into air. Ambush, Briggs shouted. The SEALs dove for cover, returning fire where possible, but the angles were unfavorable. Whoever was running security had positioned them perfectly crossfire from elevated positions, forcing them into the open if they attempted retreat. Pierce, we're compromised. Briggs barked into communications. The Admiral's voice returned tense. QRF is 20 minutes out. You need to hold. 20 minutes, Maddox snapped. We won't last 5. The woman was already moving low and fast, along the wall, counting shots, tracking muzzle flashes. They're not guarding the main door, she said suddenly. Briggs gave her a sharp look. What? They want you pinned here so they can collapse on you. If we take the door now, we flip the trap. Briggs hesitated. This wasn't in the plan, but the way she spoke, flat and certain, left no room for argument. Cover her, Maddox barked, and 2 SEALs laid down suppressive fire as she sprinted across open ground. Bullets sparked against the steel door as she slid into position, pulling a small breaching charge from her pack. 30 seconds later, the door was gone, smoke billowing from the frame. She was inside before debris hit the ground. The interior was dim, air thick with dust and old oil. She moved like she knew every inch, because she did. 2 guards rounded a corner, raising rifles, but she dropped them both with controlled double taps from her suppressed pistol. Behind her, the SEALs poured in, taking defensive positions. "Why are we in here?" Briggs demanded. "Because in about 30 seconds they're going to realize their kill box is empty," she said. "And when they come looking, we'll be above them." She led them up a narrow service staircase to the roof, moving so quickly the team had to hustle to keep up. From the rooftop, the kill zone below was clear, and the attackers who had been firing down at the courtyard were now exposed, their focus still on the empty space. "Pick your shots," she said, settling. Behind a mounted PKM, the enemy had left unattended. "Make them count." Her first burst cut down to gunners before they even knew they were under fire. The SEALs followed, their suppressed rifles dropping the rest in rapid succession. In less than a minute, the crossfire was gone. "Briggs here. Threat neutralized. We're moving to secure the HVT." There was a pause on the other end. "How?" the Admiral asked. Briggs glanced at her, still scanning the rooftops, calm as if she'd just finished a training drill. "Long story," Briggs said. "You'll want to hear it in person?" The last of the rooftop gunners fell silent. For the first time since the breach, the air was still. Just the faint hiss of cooling barrels and the smell of burned powder drifting over the compound. Inside the target building, the team moved with renewed urgency. Maddox and 2 others swept the lower floors, checking every room. Briggs and the woman pushed toward the central stairwell, their boots thudding softly on cracked concrete. She stopped halfway up, pressing her hand to the wall. 2 guards, second-floor landing. One's leaning against the railing, the other's pacing. Briggs blinked. "You can hear that floorboard vibrations," she said, and kept moving. At the stairs top, she leaned just far enough to confirm. 2 guards. Exactly where she'd said. She didn't hesitate. 2 suppressed shots, center mass, both men crumpling without sound. The door to the HVT's room was thick steel plate with mechanical lock. No electronics to hack, no keypad to override. She examined it for 3 seconds, then knelt and produced a narrow canvas roll from her pouch. Inside were tools, not standard military issue. Maddox joined them, rifle ready. "We don't have time for finesse. Finesse keeps him alive," she interrupted. "Explosives risk shrapnel." Her hands worked fast, twisting and feeling for tumblers. In less than a minute, there was a satisfying click. She stepped back, pistol up, and nodded to Briggs. The door swung open. Inside, the HVTA, wiry man with shaved head and expensive civilian clothes, froze mid-step. His eyes darted 2 weapons aimed at him, then to her. Recognition flashed in his face. Fear followed. "You," he whispered in accented English. She didn't answer. She just stepped forward, zip-tied his wrists, and pushed him toward Briggs. "Package secure," Briggs reported into his comm. They had barely begun their exfiltration when engine sounds roared from beyond the walls. Through a narrow window, Maddox caught sight of headlights. Multiple trucks moving fast. "They're bringing reinforcements," he said. Briggs cursed. "Pierce, we've got incoming. Need an exit now." "Closest extraction is blocked," Pierce replied. "QRF is still 8 minutes out. Can you hold?" "No," the woman said flatly. "We won't hold." Briggs looked at her. "Then what?" She pointed toward the north wall. "Service tunnel, half collapsed, but it leads out to the drainage ditch on the beach. We take that. We're clear before they surround us." Briggs hesitated. "You're sure it's still there?" She met his eyes. "I dug it." The team moved fast, HVT in tow. The tunnel entrance was exactly where she'd said, behind a rusted maintenance hatch obscured by overgrown weeds. Maddox and another SEAL pulled it open, revealing a dark, narrow passage smelling of damp earth and salt. They ducked inside, single file. The ceiling was low enough that even she had to stoop. Water trickled along the floor, soaking their boots. Behind them, shouts echoed in the compound. The reinforcements had arrived. Halfway through, a section had caved in, leaving barely enough space to crawl. Maddox pushed the HVT through, then squeezed himself, grunting. She came last, glancing back toward the faint light of the hatch before disappearing into darkness. Minutes later, they emerged onto a rocky stretch of beach. The RHIBs were already inbound, their dark shapes cutting through waves. As the team sprinted toward surf, muzzle flashes lit up the ridge above the beach. Enemy fighters who had looped ahead somehow. Rounds snapped overhead, kicking up sprays of sand and rock. The woman dropped to one knee, shouldering her rifle. Even in chaos, her breathing was controlled, her shots deliberate. 3 targets went down before Maddox could even raise his own weapon. "Move," she barked, and the team pushed into water. Dragging the HVT between them, the RHIBs hit shore hard, engines roaring back to life as the SEALs piled in. She was last aboard, spinning to put one final burst into the ridgeline before leaping into the boat. Spray hit her face as the RHIBs tore away from beach, engines straining. The debrief room aboard the assault ship was quiet. The HVT was in custody, the team was safe, and Admiral Pierce was standing at the table's head, arms crossed. Briggs spoke first. "Target secure. Minimal casualties. Couldn't have done it without her." Pierce's eyes narrowed. "I'm still waiting to hear exactly who her is." The woman sat at the table's far end, her posture relaxed, almost indifferent. She met the Admiral's gaze without flinching. "You don't need my name," she said. "You just need to know the job got done." "That's not good enough for me," Pierce replied. Maddox leaned forward, his voice quiet but firm. "Sir, you have heard of Operation Breakwater?" Pierce's expression tightened. "Classified at the highest level. Only a handful of people. She's the reason anyone came back from it," Maddox said. Pierce looked at her differently now. "You were on Breakwater." "I was Breakwater," she said simply, "and a dozen others like it, none of which you will find in a file." The room was silent. Even the low hum of ventilation seemed to fade. Briggs finally broke it. "The SEALs know her because she saved more of them than anyone else alive. Most of the time, they never even saw her face. Tonight, you did." Pierce studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. "Understood." The meeting ended, officers filing out. Maddox lingered, giving her a nod of quiet respect before leaving. Pierce approached her as she rose to go. "You're not on my roster," he said, "but if you ever want a place here, you'll have it." She gave him a faint smile. "I work better off the roster, Admiral." With that, she walked out, her footsteps fading down the corridor. Pierce watched her go, realizing that in all his years, he had never met someone who carried so much weight without demanding recognition. And for the first time, he understood why the SEAL team had looked at her that way. Because names can be forgotten, but legends never are. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, hit like and subscribe to Hidden Sparks for more gripping tales of heroes who work in the shadows. Comment below. Do you think her name should stay classified, or should the world know who she is? Your support helps bring more untold stories to light on Hidden Sparks.